Hello and welcome to the Final Bell, the official Geelong Cats podcast. It is great to have you with us again this week. We are brought to you by Lake Imaging, as we have been all season. Big thanks to all the crew at Lake Imaging for supporting this podcast and for everything they do. We've got a couple of little injuries mounting at the Cats, a late withdrawal, Tommy Atkins before the game. So Lake Imaging have no doubt been busy with the team. We don't want them too busy. We want them nice and busy and doing a wonderful job right across the community, but not too many injuries for the Cats, please, but thanks to them for their support. I've had Scotty Gallen with me on the podcast. I've had Lockie Young from the Geelong Advertiser on the podcast, and they are both unavailable. Scotty's still in Japan at the Olympics. Lockie unavailable. So we've gone to the very top of the tree, the best of the best for co-hosts, one of the finest football brains to walk this planet. They've gone and got my old teammate for me. James Kelly is with me. Hello, Cal.
Hello, my friend.
It is good to see you. It's always great to see you.
That's a lovely introduction. I thought you were going to say, like, Scotty's up here, then there's 50 feet of nothing, and then me. I was just sitting here waiting to cop that, but I appreciate that. It's great to be here.
My mind was racing then. I thought, do I really want to pay this bloke a compliment, or do I want to just kick the boots into him? But no, I'm going to go with the truthful one, and that is a brilliant footy brain and a wonderful teammate. It is great to have you with us. Coming up a little bit later too, Claudia Gunjaca is going to join us, the vice captain of the VFLW team, because, Cal, we've got grand final week. Forget about the AFL team. Park them. There's a grand final.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's a nice little lead-in for the footy club coming into the AFL finals as well. Grand finals at any level, at any ground, whatever they are exciting, and they're hard to come by. So we're all very excited that there's a Geelong team in a grand final again.
Playing Collingwood on Sunday in the VFLW grand final. Claudia and the team are going to be taking on the Pies. So looking forward to talking to her. We'll get to your questions as we always do a bit later on. But Cal, let's talk some footy. Saturday's game against North Melbourne. It was a battle. It was a battle to watch. North Melbourne have improved defensively, and they're protecting themselves a little bit from some blowouts earlier on in the year. But the Cats had to work hard to win this one.
Yeah, they did. It's kind of one of those funny ones. Geelong have sort of had a little bit of a habit of this in the last couple of years, that they kind of just play to the level they need to. I think the footy they played against North Melbourne isn't at all what they're capable of, but they do enough to win. They win by a comfortable enough margin. They kind of have that knack of just getting over the line and doing what they need to do, which devil's advocate would say is not what you want to do leading into finals. But I think all in all, it's a really good performance. They played a team that was really up and about and wanted to come after them and wanted to scalp. A team that defended pretty well and made it a little bit of a messy affair. But, they still just do what they need to do. They've got good players who are calm and composed, and they looked pretty good in the end.
Talk about with that build-up to finals, premiership, obviously the ultimate aim of the season. What point leading into finals do you feel it's necessary to put the foot down? We need to build some real true finals football form versus do it now, say the North Melbourne game, and we've got to hold that level for 9 weeks and it's too long to hold. Where's your belief in? Don't worry, you can turn it on qualifying final week, or you need a 2 or 3 week lead-in of really good, high-quality footy?
I think probably for me, the main thing is not worrying so much about the game and making sure the weeks look like what they want to look like. I think narrowing your focus, probably 3 or 4 weeks out from finals, narrowing your focus of training, knowing you've got a whole year of data on what you do well, what your identity is. Geelong obviously have great stability behind the ball. When they're good around the contest and at stoppages, they more than often than not, they do really well in games. So I think if they start narrowing their focus a little bit with the players, you don't start adding new concepts or new things. That might come up a little bit in circumstances where you might have different sort of matchups going into finals. That might be things, or we're going to put a forward in a different spot, put a winger in a different spot. They're not major changes that experienced teams, they can absorb that really easily. But I think probably a month or so coaches will start thinking about, all right, what do we really want to nail down? What's going to help us win the first week? Selection, which we can touch on a little bit later, starts to become a bit of an issue. A week out, key players, fitness, things like that. So I think probably a month, everyone starts looking ahead, who they're likely to play in the finals, who's on top, who's second, who have they got to play, where's the ladder likely to sit. And having played under Scotty, you know, he is like that. He's really analytical with those sorts of things. He would know what the Bulldogs have got ahead, what Sydney have got ahead, all those sorts of things, who might pop up into the top four. So it's a really interesting time.
It's a great insight that you give there about that narrowing of that focus. How much of that, and let's maybe move into selection a little bit, is locking away your best 22 or 23, whatever it might be, for finals? And the reason I ask is, from the weekend's game, the 3 outs before the game, Henderson, O'Connor, and also Brian Myers, who is going to miss a chunk of time and hopefully back by finals. Then you have Tom Atkins as a late withdrawal from the team. Zach Guthrie comes in, plays his best game he's played for his entire Geelong career. Nathan Kruger makes his debut and gets an opportunity and looks, you know, at times the game was racing around him, but at times looked composed and comfortable. And you've also got Mitch Duncan to come back in and clearly Jeremy Cameron at some stage. How much now is around, as we head into the Giants this Friday night, St Kilda and the Demons all at home, actually locking away a best 22 on the eve of finals?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one because it's you're not comparing apples with apples. If you have an unfit or an 80% fit Jeremy Cameron, any idiot would bring him into the team, provided he's not going to get injured, potentially what happened last time. But provided he's not going to get injured, you're bringing him into the team because he's Jeremy Cameron. He's one of the top 10 players in the competition. He comes in. The difficulty with the continuity of your team coming into finals is guys like Atkins, Brian Myers, Radigalia, guys who have sort of been a little bit in and out of the side, Zach Guthrie, that selection. Quinton Narkle, like guys who have come in and out of the team. And when you add a couple of injuries to that, how many guys do you actually want to carry? If you're coming up against Sydney, who are a hard, competitive, fast ball moving team, you're going to need all the wheels you can get out on the ground because it's going to be a really long, hard game. Same with the Bulldogs. They flick the ball around the contest. They run hard. They get to the outside. They switch the ball a lot. It's going to be a high intensity game. So I'm a big believer in continuity. I think a lot of people are, but the questions really come about how many underdone guys can you bring into an AFL final, and that's a question only the people inside the four walls can answer as to how fit they are. But you want to have your team pretty settled and make minimal changes that you can control leading into finals.
At least, and whether or not he does ultimately play finals or if it's Tom Atkins comes back in, Zach Guthrie was good. You know, the Geelong fans have been wondering for a long time, this kid who looks like he's 15 years of age, you know, how come he keeps, what do the coaches see? And, you know, a couple of questions asked. When you see him play like that on Saturday, start nodding your head thinking, oh, yeah, okay, now I understand it.
Yeah, he sort of followed the profile of Cam a bit, hasn't he? Like Cam early in his career was a bit the same. He just sort of simmered along and played footy and played a few roles, and then all of a sudden was just a great player. And that's a thing that Geelong coaches would love, that they've got another player to choose from who's in great form, but it does create headaches. But he was fantastic. Like full credit to him to take his opportunity. You say to players all the time, and you see people on TV, oh, you know, this young player's got an opportunity. Hopefully he takes his opportunity. That is exactly what it looks like a month out from finals to take an opportunity. He played his absolute best game he's played. And, he looked really impressive back there.
You played in a lot of successful teams. Unfortunately, we got to play in those together. The importance of a really deep squad of players capable of stepping up in the moment, one, for a bit of pressure, two, for accountability for those inside the team, in the emergency situation where you get a couple of injuries, the importance for us of having a Dave Johnson, a Tim Callan, a Charlie Gardner, a
Brett Prisnell.
Brett Prisnell. Yeah, great call. Those sorts of players were crucial to us winning premierships. As Zach Guthrie, Nathan Kruger, Jordan Clark, Brian Myers, whether he does or doesn't come back in, might be just as crucial, Quinton Narkle, for the Cats winning this year's premiership.
I think it is. Having the trust in those players that that if Joel Selwood gets injured in the first minute of the game, gets concussed and he has to come off straight away, that Quinton Narkle comes on, or Zach Guthrie comes on, or someone comes on that you absolutely trust and their teammates trust. I think you're spot on. That's really, really important. Still giving you the best chance to win. I think people underestimate that with the medical sub, because the subs in other teams that they're bringing in aren't that good. They're not good enough to play. But the thing about that sort of 6 or so players, like 22nd to 28th, 30th player, in any other team, they're walk-up starts. They just walk onto any other team, bar probably the other top teams. I think people underestimate that. You forget that a little bit, but having that big squad, the other thing I believe in too is it provides a really good training environment too. So you're trying to get 22 players like as measured and as sharp as you can get them leading into finals, and to have a really good squad of players that can train the whole way through is crucial, because their attack's only going to be as good as their defense is training, and their defense is only going to be good as their attack at training. Yeah. So if you have a real drop-off in your list, you might think you're going really well at training, moving the ball, and then you come up against Sydney and you can't move the ball an inch. I think that's one thing we underestimate with really good squads and really good lists at good teams.
All right, I'm going to pick on you here, Cal, because that's what I like to do. With that in mind, we're going to have to do some selection thoughts here, not hard calls, but some selection thoughts. Friday night, the game's been moved to Friday night. Geelong taking on the GWS Giants at GMHBA Stadium, the normal 7:50 start. 3 games at GMHBA Stadium to finish the year: the Giants, the Saints, and then the Demons, the big one, in round 23. Zach Guthrie, as I said, came in late for Tom Atkins. You can't just throw him out after that performance, can you? You assume Tommy Atkins comes back in, but do they find someone else who has to go out?
This is the thing. This is why this stuff's fun, because we're not in the room, so we don't know. But you'd think that by that same rationale, you think Quinton Narkle would have played 18 games this year. Yes, so
true.
The coaches are trying to figure out the best balance for the team, where they think, they know the strengths and weakness of the team better than anyone and how to fill that. Probably if it was me, I think maybe we put Atkins forward again, put him down there, put him forward, leave Guthrie back, let him, you're not saying that he plays next week and then he's going to play in a prelim or a grand final. We're not saying that. We're saying, well, we've got a player that we've potentially, been waiting for this to happen to. Let's just give him another go. Atkins can fill a bit of the running that Myers leaves potentially. Jordan Clark, a bit stiff again. Superstar player, clubs falling over themselves to get him in their doors. This is the luxurious thing about Geelong. I think when we were talking before, when Duncan potentially comes back, O'Connor potentially comes back soon, Cameron's got still to come back into the team, Radagalia's last couple of weeks have been really good. There's just, the deeper you get into finals, the more unlucky some players get. And it's a really tricky one. I think I'd keep going with Guthrie all in all. I'd keep him going, but like we've been waiting for this with him for a few years. He played a stunning game. Let's just keep him going and see where we end up in another 2 or 3 weeks.
All right, so if we keep going with Zach Guthrie back there, if Henderson was to be available, that means unfortunately Nathan Kruger can't hold his spot. As unlike he looked comfortable and fine, and it seems harsh after one game to drop him, but maybe it was a little taste and something to launch on into next year. Is that what you're feeling with him?
Yeah, I think that's right. It's guys like that. You're not saying, it's really rare that someone like Joel Selwood comes in, plays their whole career straight away. So like you're saying, he's got a little taste of it now. He understands what it's like. He knows now in his own mind that he's capable of playing at the level, which is a great exercise in itself. But I think when you're tossing up Kruger or Henderson, you just take Henderson straight away. You know what you're going to get every single week. You don't want any players that you're not sure about going into a final. And he's had an unbelievable year. So that's a bit of a no-brainer for me.
And then you've got Jack Henry having his career best season. Tom Stewart continues his terrific form. Blitzarves' flexibility to go back there. So there's a lot of defensive options for them. Mark O'Connor, and we don't know, I've got my little injury list here. It's saying test for Mark O'Connor, so we don't know. Not saying in or out this week, Cal, with O'Connor, but are you a believer that they need O'Connor in the team with that, for that flexibility of Dusty's not there anymore, Richmond maybe not going to be a factor in finals, but still have the flexibility of O'Connor to that player is so damaging. Petrarca or Bontempelli, that we want O'Connor there.
I think it might be once bitten, twice shy with the Cats, given that what Dusty did last year. I think they would be thinking we can't have that happen to us again. And I think same as I said before, as long as he's not, having a risk of getting injured, bringing him in, provided that's not going to happen, I think it's a good time to bring him in and get his match fitness back. So first week of the finals, they're playing against the Western Bulldogs, and Bontempelli's, arguably the best player in the competition at the moment. And like you're saying as well, with Petrarca, Isaac Heaney, there's someone there for him every week. And in what I think is going to be a really close final series, that may just give him the edge, like it took the edge away from him in the grand final last year.
It's beautiful on this podcast too, Cal. We can bring lots of players in. We don't actually have to say who's out for now. So I like that.
What? It's so great because obviously I've been a coach and I've been the one to have to say, mate, you're not playing this week, or the good kid who's been emergency for 6 weeks in a row to tell him it's going to be a 7th week of emergency. Those conversations, they never get any easier, being on the end of them or giving them. So this is just such a pleasure.
This is fun. Just bring them all in. Let them all play.
Play them all. Lobby the AFL for 6 medical subs.
Beautiful. Sounds good. Hey, Claudia's jumped on the line, so we better take a quick break. We want to talk VFLW after this. As I said before, VFLW grand final against the Pies this Sunday. We're always excited for grand final week, so let's chat with Claudia after the break. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on To the Final Bell, brought to you by Lake Imaging. As I promised earlier on, Cal, we do have our special guest. It is a huge week for this person.
Very excited.
VFLW Grand Final is coming up. Also, a new member of the AFLW team for the Geelong Cats, Vice Captain of the VFLW side, Claudia Gunjaca. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Really happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
What a week. What a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been a big exciting few weeks. So I'm really excited to get into this Saturday though, or Sunday.
How are the nerves? Are the nerves sort of coming and going throughout the week, or are they pretty steady at the moment, or how are you feeling?
No, I'm just excited. I'm not really nervous yet, so I'm sure that'll come probably later in the week.
Taking on Collingwood on Sunday, as you mentioned, at ETU Oval at 1:15 p.m. Grand final weeks are strange and fun and nerve-wracking and all of these different things. One of the things, though, is you get a hell of a lot of text messages from a lot of people wishing you all the best. Are you one who, early on in this week, embracing all of that, or are you just ignoring the phone for a little bit? What's your tactics for the rest of this week?
No, I'm one of those people that can't get off their phone. So probably just embracing it all. And, it's nice to know that you have all the support around and a lot of people are supporting you. So I definitely embrace all that.
When someone sends you, I always want to know this, when someone sends you a message and you don't have their number in your phone, are you who is this person? Or are you just a friendly thank you, appreciate your support?
I'll generally send to some people and be like, do you have this number? And then if not, then I'll be like, oh, thank you. And then just apologize and say I don't have their number.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Cal's go-to was, who are you and how did you get this number?
Well, straight to the point.
That is not true. Not true at all.
The trouble is he used to do it to me when I'd known him for 10 years and I knew he had my number and he still do it to me.
Not the case. And not about us, Cameron. It's about the VFL Grand Final.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, but let's just park the VFL Grand Final for 2 seconds. AFLW, the draft did go ahead and the Cats had lots of picks, but you were snapped up before the draft as a it's called a mature age recruit. The batch of new players that are going to come into the club. I know last season didn't go to plan. Obviously, some development and some improvement in the group, but on the win-loss column, it wasn't the plan. What's the feeling like with this new batch coming through? Have you had a chance to start talking and start getting excited about next season for the AFLW as well?
Yeah, well, I guess with the batch that's coming through, there's a lot of really exciting talent. And I know that I've played with two of the girls, Liv and Annabelle, so I know how they play and they're very exciting players and they're very new to footy, but they have so much talent and I'm just really excited to see how far they can take it. And I guess with the new recruits, we ended up, it was a bit weird, but we ended up playing two of them on the weekend from the Essendon VFL team. So it was nice to meet them in person, I guess, at the end of the game. Luckily for us, we won. So it was a bit of a nicer feeling for us. But yeah, that was a bit strange too. But all the new recruits are really exciting and I'm really excited to get into it with them.
Just tell the listeners who don't know your story, just how you've come to now be the vice captain of the VFLW team and heading into the AFLW. Your journey, a local originally, but had to move away to really take your footy to the next level.
Yeah, I sort of started playing just at La Trobe Uni. Thought I'd give it a go. They had a women's team there and I was going up there for uni. So thought I'd just give it a go and then ended up having a pretty good season. So I think Geelong here got the AFL Barwon League and played at Geelong West for a little bit. And then I actually moved to Sydney for studying to do my master's up there. So I moved up there for 2 years and not knowing anyone in Sydney, I decided to keep playing footy because I really loved it and it was a good way to meet 40 different people. So yeah, and ended up having pretty good season and up there and got a call from Ben to see if I wanted to come play VFL and came back home and here I am.
Rest is history. And whilst also moving to a new city and studying masters, it's very impressive.
Yeah, well, I just thought it'd be a good idea to stay connected with people in the footy team. And then I guess luckily for me, everyone else didn't get to play last year, but I got a season in. So that was definitely a bit of luck for me.
Do you reckon that's going to give you an advantage going into the season, that you feel like you can hit the ground running and your form was good through the finals this year and stuff?
Yeah, I definitely think like because I didn't really have much of a break. So my form was probably still there this season and probably helped me with that. My body, on the other hand, probably needs a little bit of a rest, but no, it's good.
What do we expect from Sunday's game? How do you need the game to be played? What type of style to really give the Cats an advantage over the Pies on Sunday?
Yeah, well, the past few games that we've played against the Pies have been pretty close, so we know that we can definitely bring it to them. I guess for us, we're such a high pressure team and that's what we do really well. So I think we just need to keep going with the way we always play and keeping up that high pressure football, because I think we'll be able to get them if we keep going like that.
And obviously a lot of belief comes from playing together over a longer period of time, but also winning really big finals in the lead up to this grand final. Is it fair to say convincing win in the preliminary final? I mean, even and close at halftime and tense and that, but the way you're able to go away with it and win strongly, that's got to give you a lot of belief heading into Sunday as well.
Yeah, definitely. I find we're a very strong second half team. Even when we're out of it in the Southern Saints game, you know, we've been down before at halftime and we really bring the pressure in the second half. And I think that's where that brings us a lot of confidence as well going into this week's final. But I guess we just need to make sure that we get that good start that we want.
And actually, I should have checked this. Apologies. Is any crowds allowed? Are people allowed to come?
You probably know as much as I do.
No.
Actually, I'm not sure.
Because I was just about to start pumping up our listeners, get down and support and make sure you go along and cheer. And then I stopped myself thinking, maybe I shouldn't be doing that.
If there's one thing we are with this podcast, it's well researched.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't come,
No.
but I'm not too sure.
Okay, well, getting a message through saying don't think so. So maybe I won't go pumping up. We will certainly be taking very keen interest in spirit and know that we're all there supporting. It'll be a fantastic day and hopefully a terrific game. All the very best for Sunday.
Thank you.
Now I'm getting the another message. It's good when we get Rowan Mackey, our superstar producer. VFLW Grand Final will be broadcast live and free on KO. So you can't go along and watch, but you can certainly watch on the streaming and cheer on the Cats. So all the Cats fans listening, do that and check out Claudia and the team and hopefully. Tell you what, Claudia, any chance you get to knock off the Pies is good, but to do it in a grand final, that's a hell of a lot of fun. So all the very best for that. And it's been great chatting with you. Good luck for the AFLW pre-season and the AFLW season as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Good luck. All the best.
Thank you.
Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on To the Final Bell. We are brought to you by Lake Imaging and loved having a chat with Claudia there and excited about the Cats in the VFLW. Hopefully a premiership is on Sunday, as I said, and thank you to our wonderful team at the Cats for those little notes. You can't go to the game, but you can watch it live and free on KO Sports. I suppose it's not technically free. It's streaming and you've got to pay for it.
It's free once you sign up, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. So jump on and cheer the Cats on, and hopefully they have a win. A couple of questions, Cal. Every single week, our wonderful listeners send in a few questions. Some a little bit random and some nice and serious. So you'll get a mixture of both. First question. This is from Philip in Alice Springs. Thanks, Philip, for your question. Which former Geelong player do you think is currently performing best with another club in the AFL? My choice would probably be Lincoln McCarthy with the Brisbane Lions. What are your thoughts? Cal?
Yeah, Link's going pretty well. He had a pretty good game a couple of weeks ago, kicked 4. I think it might have been kicked 4 after he signed the deal, or maybe it was his birthday, potentially. He's probably been the one who's had – it's arguable always who's going the best because, guys play different roles. But in terms of when he was at Geelong, he was – bit injury riddled. He had a few problems, couldn't get out on the park consistently. And since he's been at Brisbane, he's played really pretty much every game. So, yeah, I tend to agree with Phil on that one.
How good was it to see Nakia Cockatoo play his first game for the Brisbane Lions on the weekend?
He could be.
I know we said it all the time, and I keep getting told on this podcast just to settle down with him. But if he got a good run at it, if like Link, he could get his body right, I still feel like he could be anything.
Yeah, I just think, imagine being a defender and the ball hits the ground in the forward line and the Nakia Cockatoo is breathing down your neck. Like, he's a monster. He's actually so big and powerful and he loves tackling and hurting people. I just think there'd be some nervous defenders when the ball's on the ground in a final. Ball comes in, Danaher brings it down, Lincoln McCarthy's power, and then he comes along. It's just like, that's what everyone loved about him.
I'm not exaggerating him. He's as big as Dangerfield.
Absolutely. As big and as powerful. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, hopefully he gets a good run at because he's a wonderful bloke as well. So hopefully he gets a chance. Thanks for your question, Philip. Stignation asks, how good could Nathan Abblett have been if he continued playing, Cal? We got to play in a premiership with Nath. He kicked 3 or 4 in that grand final.
Yeah.
He was only scratching the surface of the talent that was in there.
He was just getting good, wasn't he?
Hung up the boots. If he'd this might be unfair because Nath is just a wonderful human being, terrific, gentle guy, everything, just a terrific teammate. But he didn't have that inner burning drive like his brother had. Let's just pretend for a second he had Gary Jr.'s drive and competitiveness and crazy will to be the best. How good could he have been?
I'm pretty bullish about it. I think that if if you're saying the hypothetical question is right, is he competitive as Gary? I think the top 3 players ever in the AFL would be all from the same family. Honestly, like it's not ridiculous. I feel I've thought about it a lot, and you would have copped it too. You cop that question a lot, and you sit there and think about it, and you think he borderline has more ability than Gary did at the same age, and the things he could do and the way he could move for a guy of his size. But at the end of the day, football wasn't everything to him. He was his own independent person, and football didn't make him happy. But you love to think about these things, and that's why we're here. I genuinely think like it'd be jostling for the position. Imagine that, 3 players ever being from the same family.
6'4", would that be right?
Yeah, he's about 6'4", lightning quick. He kick off both feet. Giant buckets for hands.
And stole your boots one day.
And stole my boots before a final. I was a mess. I don't know where my boots were. They're in the stand on Nathan's feet. I think he thought that I wasn't going to wear them. He thought, because I used to warm up in my runners and then come back in and change my boots. Anyway.
Oh, I love those stories.
Great story.
Bit of a random one for you here, Cal. Xavier Neen asks, do you think Tom Hawkins pulls off the moustache?
I don't mind it. Yeah, I'm happy.
I reckon Hawkey pulls up anything, doesn't he, these days?
He's a tall, beautiful, heavy-set lad. He's lovely.
Good description. Manya asks, which teammate had the worst taste in music? I would say James Kelly.
Cameron Ling. It's not like we used to sit on the bus. A lot of people would know this, but we used to sit on the bus together a lot and like have one in the ear each and swap songs on the iPods when there was iPods.
It was music. iPhones. Was it music you were listening to? I just thought it was a bunch of swear words.
I thought I'd actually woken up in the 1950s with the music you put on. Definitely, yeah. Although there's some music now that I just don't. I'm feeling old. I don't understand some of the music now. It just sounds like noise, but.
Oh, you are sounding old.
Yeah, I am.
So that's Manya. That is, it's just very clear. James has the worst taste in music, and mine is
Cameron,
impeccable.
Always Cameron.
Elliot Talk asks, "Who was your funniest teammate?"
It's 2 in a row for me, I think.
Ah.
2 from 2. Thanks for the question.
I'll give you a tough choice, and it was the Joke Box committee initially, I think. Dave Johnson, Stephen King, or Henry Playfair? Who was funniest?
It's probably Henry Playfair. Yes. Really, like Kingy, very dry, very sarcastic sense of humour, which fits in really well at a football club. But Henry had the same, but just a little bit more wit, I reckon. He was a very, very funny man.
That's a good choice, and could do some nice impersonations as well.
Absolutely.
Formerly coached by, when he was going up New South Wales ACT Rams, formerly coached by the great Rod Tilt Carter. And used to do a nice little impersonation of him. The way he used to deliver his coaching addresses. A very funny man.
Very funny human.
SMCEC 14 asks, how important is disposal efficiency in the modern game? I would say the bigger the game, Cal, the more important that is. Under enormous pressure, under incredible, almost relentless intensity and pressure, those who can be the most effective and efficient and execute under that pressure are the best players going around. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's like lots of game plans and systems are designed to take time and space away from the opposition. So if you can do that to the opposition, take away their time and space, and you have players that can have less time and space and still be effective. That's the whole game. That's what you look for, is the composure in the contest. And teams that do that and players that can do that, it's no secret why they're the best teams and the best players.
All right, last question. This is Just Nick 58. Tough question here. I'm going to give you an A, B, and C option here. Who is Geelong's greatest ever coach? Reg Hickey, Mark Bomber Thompson, or Chris Scott? I think would be the 3. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to any other coaches. Obviously, Bobby Davis, a a premiership coach, other fine coaches along the way. But I think most Geelong fans would agree they would have to beat Chris Scott with the percentage winning and one premiership. Bomber Thompson built a list out of, it's fair to say, some pretty mediocre times at the Cats, and won 2 premierships as coach, went to 3 grand finals and set up an incredible era and incredible culture at the club. And the great Red Chicky, clearly one of the greatest people in Geelong Football Club's history. Are you just going to go with the bias towards the person who drafted us and developed us and and won us our first flag and let us live our dreams?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Like these are the debates, like same as before with bringing players in and out of the team. Like this is what's fun about this stuff. What do you use to judge that? Do you use premierships? Do you use actual Scotty's winning percentage over a decade? It's a really, really interesting one. And even as players playing under both of them, it's really hard to decide because they both had their own strengths and weaknesses. Bomber was good at some things, Scotty was good at others, and that's what makes them great. But I'm right in the middle of a fence, aren't I? But
can I add the added element though? This is and all serious, and I only had the 1 year under Chris Scott, and you had multiple years, so it's probably easier for me to say Bomber because I had 11 years with Bomber. But the ability for Bomber to drag a football club and a team out of the amateur era, even though it was professional and it was sort of becoming more full-time, but even just the approach and preparation and recovery and mental aptitude was still just in that crossover period between part-time football, amateur football, or not amateur football, but a slightly amateurish approach to some things into a just highly elite mindset, top of the tree type environment to create the best team. His ability to drag the group through that, to that, and develop them to be that, I found that's what set him apart from a lot of coaches across that entire last 21 years of football.
Yeah, I think that it's a really good point. Doing that, like you've heard Bomber talk before about coaching the whole club. That was really necessary at the time. Under Bomber's, tenure, the football department exploded, the sports science departments exploded, clubs got bigger, all that sort of stuff. So he sort of had to manage all of that in amongst having the best program for the players to perform and teaching us how to play like men. I think the counter side of that with Scotty is his ability to continue to manufacture wins over a really long period of time. Geelong have been in the finals every year, and you just watch the AFL and how teams drop in and out all the time. Sydney are going really well this year. They were not very good last year. Bulldogs have had a lean few years. The last couple of years, they've been really good. Geelong hasn't really gone through the lean years. They've always been around the mark, and maybe they've got to finals sometimes, and they probably maybe knew they weren't good enough to win, but they were there anyway. I think that's like Scotty's ability to tinker with things, tighten the screws, educate the group, bring new players in is the other side of it as well. Which is the greater challenge? You probably, if you could answer that, you'd answer who's the better coach. That's and that's really subjective. Is it harder to stay on top? Is it harder to get to the top? You're coaching a group of players for Bomber that were hungry. We wanted to win, and you've had players then under Scotty that have already won. Do they still want to win? How do you keep them winning? How do you keep them engaged and focused? I don't have an answer.
But it's a great point you made, because the Chris Scott way of coaching is probably in the ultra modern way of football. It is utilising free agency at the right time. It is getting trades done when they need to, bringing in players from a Category B rookie like a Mark Witzels and developing them up, bringing in young players through the draft, not always going to the draft, but finding the right times to go to the draft, turning that all into a group that remains competitive at all times and putting themselves in a position where they're a chance. Now, people jump on it and say, well, they haven't won a premiership, the finals record and all that. Well, which would you prefer? A team that pokes their head up once every 15 years and has a shot at a flag and then disappears to the bottom of the ladder and goes 6-16 for the next 8 years, or a team that is constantly thereabouts, completely relevant, a top four, preliminary finals, shot at a grand final, maybe they win a flag. Like, if I'm a fan, I'd want the team that's giving me a really great go every single time I go and watch my team play.
Yeah, well, I've spent time at another club where you don't make finals, and it's worse. So be happy, and I don't mean that to sound disrespectful to the Bombers, but that you're really spoiled for choice at Geelong. Which final you're going to go to, which year, and you miss out on one final. You say to your kids, "Don't worry, mate, we'll go to the finals next year. I'll get you a ticket next year." So the people that complain, I think we love their support, but I think they don't really understand how difficult it is to continually be up there like that, and continually everyone's like, Geelong are a chance, they could win. Had they not come up against Richmond, probably the best team in the last decade, really, they've been unbelievable. Had they not come up against them, they would have a couple of flags in the bank, and it's a little bit of it's the right timing. Andy Murray coming and playing when Djokovic and Federer and Nadal were all playing. He could have been a Grand Slam champion multiple times.
Your point is, I'd rather be Andy Murray than ranked 122nd in the world and never playing in a semi-final at Wimbledon.
Exactly right. Or you pop up one week and make a semi-final, and then you don't qualify for another one for 5 years. I think. We're all passionate. We all want to see another Premiership Cup in Geelong, which is why we all say, come on, it's like, this is a year. Why didn't they win last year? But, just sit back and just watch a great team be great.
Sounds good to me. Great question there from Just Nick 58. That question, I reckon, could have been a whole podcast in itself. We could go in even deeper there, and obviously some of the older crew, older Geelong supporters and older Geelong people would certainly have a really strong argument for Reg Hickey as well in that conversation. Thanks to all of our listeners who sent questions in. Please do so every week. We'll try and get to as many as we possibly can. We better finish up there. The Cats take on GWS Friday night at GMHBA Stadium at 7:50 p.m. No fans allowed yet. Fingers crossed the last 2 weeks of the year we'll be able to get some fans into the ground. So enjoy watching it on TV and listening to it on the radio and cheering the Cats on. Cal, thank you so much for joining and stepping into Scotty's shoes. I don't think he's welcome back now. You've done a magnificent job.
He's done, isn't he? Yeah. No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Always enjoy talking about the Cats.
Great to get your insight. We didn't even get to get into if you've got any closer to making a few of those decisions. I know a number of clubs across the AFL would be desperate to get a hold of your services, but I'm not going to ask them yet. But we will be watching the news over the next month or two as to see where your incredible footy knowledge lands. So all the very best with that. Great to see you. Hopefully we get to catch up next week at the Cats game and maybe have a little quiet beverage together.
That would be great.
Sounds good. Thanks to James Kelly. Thanks to Lake Imaging for their sponsorship. Thanks to Rowan Mackey, our producer. And thank you to all of you for listening. We'll be back next week.